welcome to Testing 1, 2, 3. I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I have the absolute pleasure to have Jennifer McCord on, and I'm so happy. Did I do it wrong?
No, you did it right. I was like, I didn't want to react because you did it right. I was like trying to give you thumbs up with my eyes. I don't know.
I have to say that the most stressful part about any of this podcasting is getting people's names right. As a severely dyslexic person who does have a lisp and a weird accent, it's really tough.
And you're creative, so you're probably naturally an overthinker. And
100%.
yeah, the amount of times I pause before I say people's names out loud, even like people I've known for years, I'm like, is that their name? Anyway, sorry, carry on.
I will call people by their nickname, and then people will be like, who's that? And I'll be like, oh no, that's how they introduce themselves to me. But like everyone doesn't know them by that nickname, and then I'm like, are they trying something? Did they make up the nickname and then only tell me? I don't understand. Anyway, like I said, absolute pleasure. I'm going to talk about how I met Jem first, because it's all about me, and then we're going to get on to
That's
Jen.
my preference when it's all about you. It's good.
Yeah, I don't think you understand how new to photography, like music photography it was, because I met you at Isle of Wight Festival. I did the math the other day. I shot my first show in March. No, March 2022. And by the July, I was at Isle of Wight.
Yeah. I remember we did talk a little bit about it, that you were very new.
I'd shot one show.
And I remember being like, you're here, that's sick, like, let's go.
I met on the back of the golf cart. You just were lovely to me.
I'm so glad I wasn't a can I swear on this? I don't know. Sorry, everyone.
I'm going to have to cut that word out.
Oh, sorry.
You weren't. You were lovely. And you just were like, told me about your previous experience and why because you only showed up a little bit later.
Yes.
You were still with the Isle of Wight team. So just a bit of context, I was with press, which means that I get first three, no flash. And you were there to work for the festival on the media team. And I'd weaseled my way into meeting all of the festival team, because I was like, oh, these are the people I want to be friends with, because they're just so cool.
I love it. No, you were great.
So cool. And you just told me, I was like, I don't know if I'm doing, I had an existential crisis in the back of that golf cart, and you were like, you're fine, you're great, this is what I went through. And then every time we see each other, we genuinely see each other now for 5 seconds, and then we're like, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. Okay, bye. And then we're like, peace.
And I'm always like, are you gonna be here when I come back? And you're like, maybe. And then I come back and you're not there.
The joys of like, genuinely, I think about this every single time I come into London. If I lived in London, how much easier my career life would be. And
I thought you were about to be like your social life, and I was like, no, that's not true. No, I don't fucking see anybody. But
no. Like, I know that I would be able to pick up shows very last minute.
Yes.
Like, I'd be able to do a lot of things. But I have a dog. He is a beagle. He would die in London. Like, it's too loud. He's a grumpy old man. He doesn't like it when the garbage truck comes past our house.
I mean, same.
On a Friday. He's like, Mum, I ain't leaving. So
fair.
Have a nice day.
Fair. Yeah.
Anyway, back onto like what the actual podcast is about and not about the dog. You are a live music photographer. You are a photographer. But that's how I know you. And from the face you just pulled, it's not the title you want to go by. So would you like to introduce yourself, Jen? And then we could, and I cannot get it wrong.
Oh my God, no, you weren't getting it wrong. It's so interesting. I was wondering where you were going with it. Yeah, I just think it's really interesting that like live music photographer, because I'm like, I haven't shot a show in like 8 months. Like I don't do live music anymore. But I did for a really long time. And don't get me wrong, like I like jumping back in now and again, but I would definitely not identify as a live music photographer. And there are plenty of people in my life now who have no idea that I shoot live music. There isn't really anything on my website that has that, like, and I don't post it. So or it's very rare. I actually almost posted one the other day, and I was like, maybe I'll save this for later. I would say that I'm a photographer that I would say I'm largely a portrait photographer. If you wanted to be, I hate the word, but I guess the best descriptor at the moment is that I am probably like a celebrity photographer. That's kind of, I guess, the easiest sum up of it.
I've seen you do a lot of things that are definitely celebrity-esque, but I would call them, like, when I look at your photos, and if you're on the video, you'll see the photos that I'm talking about, like with Jamie Lee Curtis and stuff like that. When I saw that, I didn't think, oh, Jen's shot a celebrity. I thought Jen has photographed a human being in a very unique way, which is really interesting and shows their personality.
Thanks. I mean, I really appreciate that, because that's definitely the aim. But it's just trying to explain, if you say to someone you're a portrait photographer, they're often like, so do you do headshots? And I'm like, no, I tend to shoot celebrities. That tends to be who is in front of my camera. Sometimes they're actors, sometimes they're musicians, sometimes they're directors, or they're in some other kind of creative field. And there's no way to be like, I shoot creatives without sounding really wanky. So I don't say that. No, it is. I shoot people. I'm a people photographer. I don't know.
I'm a human photographer.
I hate that so much.
I knew.
We're workshopping. Sorry, there's no stupid ideas.
Except for that one you just said to me.
I was like, creative photographer, but that also gives me the ick, like so viscerally.
I'm not going to talk too much about your like younger years, but I just, for context,
sure,
I kind of want to just take me on a little journey. If you do want to know more about Jen, because obviously you do, I'm going to leave a little podcast that you've done previously that probably goes more into it. But it's really important that on this podcast, you have the space to talk about the things that you want to talk about that you've never really maybe had the opportunity to before, and that you think would be beneficial to like the viewer, aka me. That would be great. You are an adult now. How did, sorry about that. How did young Jen get to where she is today?
I always took photos. Now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, it was so obvious. Like I was obsessed. But I just don't think I really knew that could be a career. And then I think I was always really obsessed with fashion magazines and started looking at those and was really buying them for the shoots, and be so disappointed if I didn't like a shoot in a magazine. I'd be like, that was a waste. But so opinionated for like no reason. But
it's because you have good taste. That's why you're opinionated.
I think so. But anyway, so at some point I was like, I think I want to be a fashion photographer. And I'd seen Annie Leibovitz's work, and she was and is still a huge influence on me, and critique around her work in previous years. But she has such an incredible career and has done so many different things. And I think is really like, that's quite enviable. Where it kind of started seeing her work and being like, I kind of want to do that. And so I just was shooting anything that anyone would let me shoot. Honestly, literally everything. I just had my camera all the time. I was constantly making my friends post for me. I got really obsessive about it. There was some stuff in between. When I was 17, I had found Adam Elmakias's work. And at this point, he had a very active blog and was touring with a bunch of bands that I loved. And he was showing a side of live music that I actually was interested in, because honestly, a lot of the photos I'd seen of bands on stages, I was like, like not that interested. But there's this one photo, I think it's of one of the guys in A Day to Remember. It might be a different band. I can't remember now, but it's a drummer and they're smoking a cigarette, and the shot is so good and it's such a moment. And I remember being like, fuck, I want that. I want to see what's going on behind all of that. I want to get to the people. Read up on his stuff and was watching everything he was doing. And then I saw this band had like followed me on Twitter. They were called Being as an Ocean. They were a hardcore band from San Diego, and they were coming to the UK for the first time. And I went and I listened to the music and I was like, this is sick. And so I just messaged them and was like, do you want a tour photographer? And they were like, yeah, okay. And I had just sent them like a Flickr link that had my friends and family on it. And I think I wrote them like a super professional email. And they said later, they were like, we did not realize how like young you were. We thought that you were like a university student, and I was still in my last year of school. But anyway, they said yes. And I went on tour for 2 weeks, and it was like the best thing ever. And I had really no business being there. Like, I knew nothing about the music industry. I grew up like going to shows, but wasn't in any kind of local music scene, didn't have friends in bands or anything. Like, my parents were into music, but not involved in the music business. I went in fully ignorant and like threw myself right in at the deep end, which is like a thing that I have done throughout my career, and it seems to pay off fairly well most of the time. But had basically at this point made the decision that some way or another I was going to be a photographer. I didn't want to go to university, which I think my parents were terrified by. Went on tour, took photos of you know, obviously the band I was with every night, but also every single support band. And this is like the days where there were like 4 bands supporting. So I was shooting all of this. I was editing it the same night. I was barely sleeping. I was sending it to all the bands. I was also making friends with all the promoters and being like, hey, can I shoot your next show? Like, if you're ever promoting something in London, if you have anything, like, I'd love to shoot it. And I was sending all these bands their photos and being like, hey, great show. Like, I'd love to shoot your one in London, or can I shoot your press shots, or can I do whatever? I had very easy access to London, and then spent a lot of my like late teens, early 20s once I'd picked up music photography in Camden and like shooting shows at the Unicorn or shooting shows at the Scream Lounge in Croydon. And so that's how that started.
That was really concise. I'm very impressed. As someone who is a yapper themselves, I can't believe I just said that on. Yeah.
I felt it was yappy. So,
Yeah.
but
No,
anyway, we'll go with it.
Do you have like a career defining moment? Do you have a moment when you went, oh, I've made it? Like, this is, I think made it is probably the wrong, but like when you're like, oh, I am definitely a professional photographer now. Like I
don't think there was ever really like a defining moment for that. There are definitely times where I still feel like I'm winging it, but then also not. Weirdly, this is going to be like the most eye-rolly thing that I say, but photography for me has always felt super, super instinctive. It is like my favorite thing to do, and it is like the place where my brain like focuses and calms and like does that. So I think in a weird way it always just felt right. But then like I don't, like you were talking about sort of things where you were like, oh, I've made it, and I kept thinking that things would feel like that, and they never really did. And I think some people's careers go like that, like there's like a big leap, and that suddenly is the thing that pushes them into the next level or whatever. But I actually think that for a lot of people it's such a slow burn, or it's more like small little steps to get up the staircase that you don't even realize you're there when you get there, and then you're suddenly like, oh shit, yeah, I like, you know, this is what like 16-year-old me like wanted this whole time. It's also a weird cycle because you're like me and you're very like, what's the word, ambitious. You know, you love your job and you always want to be better at it. So I always want more. So sometimes I'll get something and then I'll be like, but I just want more. Like I'm not in an ungrateful way. I think it's good to be driven, but I could probably do with being be a little bit less hard on myself. That's what my therapist tells me. But I also think it's really good for my career. So who knows?
I think you can definitely tell from your work that you're always striving.
The idea of like the work getting bad or getting lazy freaks me out so much. I want everything I shoot to be better than the last thing I shot, and that's a lot to put in yourself. But I can't do things by halves. I can't go into something being like, doesn't matter. Like I'm either there or I'm not. So I'm very all in on stuff.
I know that like that probably is tremendously bad for your mental health.
I wouldn't say it's bad for my mental health. It's probably tiring, but like
I love looking at your photos because of it.
Thanks. I'm glad. I like looking at my photos mostly too. So, you know, I want to make work that I'm proud of and that feels like me, and it's the most rewarding thing that I get to do, and I feel exceptionally lucky that this is my job. So yeah,
I feel exceptionally lucky as a fan of yours to get to watch it.
This is so good for my ego.
Am I fangirling a little bit too hard? I think
no,
I'm
please
sorry.
Fangirl harder.
I'm so sorry.
Where's the t-shirt with my face on it?
Oh, you know what? I really want someone to run a marathon so I can make embarrassing signs. So if you know anybody wants, it has to be a marathon. I'm not doing anything for less than a marathon.
I won't be running a marathon.
Yeah. So, but you know what? You said you wanted a t-shirt with your face on it. Just wait and see till we see each other next.
Maybe I'll take it back.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's a really good answer, because I definitely feel like people are like, you did this really cool thing, and I'm like, that was like 30,000 emails to get that one really cool thing, and I'd shot a kitchen earlier in the day to afford to go and do that. Does that make sense sometimes?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So, and I'm sure that other people feel that way.
Yeah, it's definitely also, there's a thing, some of that stuff looks really good from the outside, and actually it's like, it's a difficult industry.
Oh, 100%.
So sometimes it's not as fun as it seems. Like, don't get me wrong, like I said, incredibly grateful, but like sometimes there needs to be space between the thing that you just did and you feeling good about it. And sometimes I need a longer space, you know? Yeah.
just going to hop back to something you said at the beginning.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that you hadn't shot a show in 8 months.
Oh, yeah.
So what is Jen doing now?
What is Jen doing now?
I know that from your Instagram that you are living part-time here, part-time in LA.
Yeah.
Is it just a seasonal depression? You're just like, I'm going to hop on a plane and I'm going to peace out?
I do get quite bad seasonal depression, but no, unfortunately. It's I have always worked with US clients and have always been seemingly quite, my work seems to do quite well over there. I have an O1 visa now, which means I can live and work there for like the next 3 years, which is amazing. So I just really wanted to I knew it was always something I wanted to do was work more in the States. And so I really have been pushing towards doing that. I just signed with an agency in North America, which is really exciting. That's like one of my goals for last year. They're called The Good Brigade, and they're run by 2 amazing women. Or like there's a third person who isn't a founder, but who works there as well, who's also like a really great woman. And it's just wonderful.
But that's amazing.
Thank
I really hope, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you celebrated, but congratulations. That's amazing. That's amazing. You've got the visa, like getting a visa as well. Like those are nothing I've ever had to do in my life, but I hear a lot about how much of a pain in the ass they are.
Yeah, it was, I got very lucky. I had a lot of people write very lovely reference letters. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. And I had really good support in doing that. And when it came through, I was like, really? Are you sure? Like, but
just calling up the American embassy, there must have been.
There must have been. No, it was. That was like a big imposter syndrome thing, actually. So now I spend a lot of time over there, mostly in LA. I would love if I was spending a bit more time in New York because it is slightly more of a me city, I think. No shade to LA.
You can walk everywhere in New York, like there, and I do.
I'm a big walker,
and you. Yeah. I think I felt the same in Boston. Mm-hmm. So like, I kind of feel like that coast is closer to England, so it kind of feels not Florida, but it kind of feels a bit like, I can say that because I've lived in Florida. It feels a bit Englishy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you don't need to have a car in Boston. You don't need to have a car in New York. Like the public transport will serve you. Yeah.
I don't love the need to drive everywhere in LA. And I mean, I often stay in places where it's walkable as like a community.
But then outside of that, you have to.
Yeah, like I have to Uber to a job.
Yeah.
Like I can't get public transport to the job or something. But yeah, so yes, I spend a lot of time out there now, which is really great. And I'm so excited to be building the client base still out there and kind of working on new projects and new things. I'm working on like a personal project that's to do with women's saddle bronc riding.
I did see this and I was going to ask you about it.
Shall I pause this?
No.
Okay.
No. You have such an intimate way of photographing things.
Thank you.
So when I saw this pop up on my feed, and I was like, it makes sense. Like women in a very male dominated and quite a rough and tumble sport.
I mean, it's an incredibly dangerous and physically demanding sport. They're truly so fucking badass. It's like insane. They're the coolest girls ever. I have so much admiration for them. And like, not only is it like a little bit psycho, but they are like true athletes. The shit that they put their bodies through to win is insane. Like, and most of them also they're like ranchers, or they work physical, very demanding jobs. They're just really cool. It's amazing that they are really pushing like so many of the gender norms in a world that is actually very conservative. Yeah, they're incredible. And it's been like, we're so early on in the project and I'm so excited to do more with them.
I love the project that you are doing. When it popped up on my Instagram, it just made so much sense.
Yeah.
Because of the way that you photograph. It's such an, like I said, I'm going to use the word intimate. I don't know how else to describe it.
No, I appreciate that's how I describe my work. So
makes sense. It's a passion project.
It's a personal project. Yeah.
Yeah. A personal project. Can you talk about the importance of doing personal projects?
I don't know. Okay. Maybe it's slightly controversial to say this, but I think people should make personal work. I don't necessarily think that everyone should be making personal projects. There's such a heavy emphasis on that within the photography industry, especially within like the fine art photography industry, which has a lot of things that have like what you have to do and must do. And I kind of think a lot of that is bullshit. Like personal projects are often very lengthy and very time consuming, and like with that also quite financially draining. This one especially is like quite financially ambitious and requires a lot of my own like personal funds to go into it. And I really want to make the work, so I'm going to figure it out. But I am like applying for grants and things, and it's going to cost me a lot to do without like anything necessarily coming back from that. But it's work I want to make, and that's that's fine. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much pressure to make those kind of long-term projects, and not everyone's like built for that or should feel like they have to make those things if they don't necessarily think it's suited for them.
I do agree with you, because like I don't have I feel like everyone has a passion project going on, or like a personal project going on. I don't have one going on. I haven't had one in like 2 years. Like, yeah, because I haven't had an idea. And I think sometimes when you sit there and like you have to have a personal project going on, otherwise you're never going to make great work.
No, I think that's bullshit. Like I do think you should also be making work for fun. Like that's how the creativity grows. And I do notice when I'm not picking up my camera for personal stuff as much, like my personal work and the things that I choose to photograph. And I'm not talking about personal projects. I'm just talking about shooting my friends or making sure I take my camera with me on walks. And don't get me wrong, I'm always taking photos. Like my camera roll on my phone is fucking disgusting. But like, I'm constantly running out of storage. But
this is how I get shit. The photographers are the ones that are buying the.
Oh yeah, a friend the other day joked that I'm single-handedly keeping like the Apple Cloud like financed. I'm always taking photos and I see everything as a photo, and that's very much in my instinct on things. But there is a different intention when you shoot something like on a film camera or like a digital or whatever, as opposed to just your phone, which can be a good and bad thing. But I think I have found that shooting personal work on a proper camera does then go and inform the way that I like feel about studio shoots, and I find that my brain opens up to a newer way of working, and everything sharpens a little bit more, and I really notice when I'm not doing it as much. So it's
like a skill, isn't it? Like it is.
Yeah, it's like flexing a muscle for sure. I guess like if you think the shoots are like your running races, but you need to like do your easy runs and do your like fartlek or whatever, and if running friends that are going to watch this and be like, what are you fucking talking about? But don't
worry, I am not a running friend, so we are fine.
Great, perfect. You know, you have to do the training like non-stop. Like you need to pick it back up to then go do the other thing. So yeah, I don't know, I think it's always good to be learning and growing, and like I also just love it. Like, and I do think if you are trying to work as a professional photographer, like you kind of have to love it, because it's not an easy industry. No, yeah, you have to really want it.
I love that you talked about grants, because I think a lot of time people don't understand. Like, I'm going to talk about specifically about the UK when I talk about this about grants. Like, you can apply to your council. Yeah, you can apply to your university. You can apply to your school. I got grants whilst I was at secondary school.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I went to Ghana. It was a whole thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, one day, Jen.
Okay, another chat.
But you can there are so many resources out there that go untapped. I watched a documentary a couple of years ago about like what happens to funds in our communities when they're not used properly and stuff like that, and how many go to waste because they just can't get in front of the right people. Yeah. So I recommend you can just email your local council and just be like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Is there an arts grant going? And I'm sure, like, and I'm saying that for like listeners, because I'm a strong believer, as you are, that everyone's work should be created.
Yeah, no, totally. And I feel like I've been having this conversation a lot recently, like, I can't think of the proper word now, but some of the financial boundaries that stop work being made. And it makes me really sad, because I'm like, we're missing out on so much great art, like photography, but also like other projects, and so many beautiful, amazing, like honestly, like life-changing for someone's like work that could be being made that isn't being made just because they like can't afford it. Yeah, I deeply care about that, and it makes me very sad when I think about it. But
that's because you care so much.
I do. I really care. I like want to see great work, and I want people to be supported, and I want the industry to be better.
So
Oh
tiring.
my God, it's exhausting.
How did you make that shift from live music to, I'm going to say, more portrait editorial? You know, we're talking like big studios with big lights, and we're talking budgets. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that word before, but budget. there seems
Budget.
there seems to actually be budget for the shoot, which I don't think I've never heard. I digress. How did it happen naturally? Was it just something you were seeking out? Like, were you bored of touring? Like,
I'd always taken portraits. Like, I always shot brush shots. It was like very much part of my work, just as much as the live work was, maybe even a little bit more at some stage. And I would also say that, like, I think my live work was never really just live work. There was like a lot of other stuff going on. I was much more interested in like non-traditional things that were happening on stage. Like, sure, there are like big cool moments, but like I wanted the in-between, and touring for me was really not about what was happening on stage. It was really about everything like off stage, much more, and like the preparation and kind of the mental game, and then also about the fans and the connection between that. It was something else on an emotional level. It was so much more than like a band playing on a stage, and it always has been in that. So I think that's always been in my work. Like, I think I've always been a portrait photographer that happened to take live photos for a really long time.
can I just say about the fans?
Yeah.
When I've seen your work, it's always had maybe the artists, but there's always been like a mixture of fans, especially when you do like a carousel. I think you are very good at picking up people's emotions.
Thanks.
And I think that leads into the very intimate work that you do, that you, even in a room full of 10,000 people, that you're still able to get that shot of a fan showing that emotion. Even if they don't know you're there, there's still, that's still like a relationship.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I also like, I want to take those photos for people because I like, there's something so beautiful about someone having all of their emotions just be out there and be so uninhibited about feeling everything they're feeling in that moment in connection to the music and the art that's being made there. I think that's like, it makes me really emotional. Like, whenever I see it, I like cry like regularly at that sort of stuff. Such a special kind of joy. It's truly like quite magic. It's very cool. Yeah. So I love documenting that. Yeah.
And then you said that it was very natural, that move into more editorial.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't really answer the rest of that. No, so I'd always sort of shot it, and I fell into doing, I was touring, and then I ended up doing like a lot more content stuff. Like, and when I say content, I mean more like I was a BTS photographer and like a personal photographer for artists for a long time. So I worked with like Ellie Goulding for a long time, and also Becky Hill, and I also did like Max Richter and bunch of other people, but they were like kind of my big ones, I suppose. That was really fun, and it was great, but I also was like, I often have no creative control, and I felt like I was getting to a point with my work where I was like, I don't want to be the person taking the BTS on set forever. I want to be the person whose set this is, because I do it in other scenarios. I was already shooting for Dork and shooting covers for magazines and for Enemy and stuff before I started working with Ellie. You know, all of that. And it just, for some reason, and this isn't talking about any specific artist, this is just talking about like the way that I've experienced the industry in general, is that people find it hard to move you out of a box. Once you're in the BTS box, that is where you sit. You will be a BTS photographer until you die or until you start saying no. So that's what I started doing, was I told a lot of my content people that I didn't want to do it anymore. And I did also try and have those conversations with people and be like, hey, I like really want to be doing more portrait work, and like, here's my portfolio and stuff. But I think it was just, oh, but like, we love you as a BTS person. They kind of don't. It's a comfortable thing, and often things are done reasonably last minute, the music industry.
Everything last minute.
Yeah. So I think it just became like also a bit of a safety net for people. And I get that. And I am so appreciative of like the really great relationships that I have with artists who have let me into their world and let me document really, really intimate moments. And like a lot of those artists, I've also done like personal things that will never see the light of day for, but like I photographed their babies when they were born or their kids' christening or stuff that is never going to go anywhere, but is like their family life. And that's such a privilege to be allowed into someone's life like that. But I also wanted more creative control, and I thought I felt like I'd outgrown BTS a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I still love like documenting things, and there are artists that I still do some of that with. I just did the Brits again with Becky. She has like a really great video content person called Seb now, who is like wonderful and also honestly like a better fit for her. Like I was always a weird fit, but we just got on very well. And like I had to change my work a lot to look like a thing that suited her, which was a fun challenge in and of itself, but it meant I didn't share much of the work. And yeah, like I did Brits with her, which is always a really like fun experience. And I love seeing the artist that she's grown into and getting the recognition that she deserves. Like she's fucking incredible. So that's really lovely. And there's a band called Half Moon Run who I started out touring with and who I still do live stuff with, but I also do a lot of creative direction for them. I did creative on the last album.
I was going to say, I thought you did stuff for the album.
Mm-hmm. So they basically sent me, it was like my dream commission. They sent me the record and they were like, here's the amount of money that we have. Here's what we need to get out of it. What does this record sound like to you? Where do you want to go?
Amazing.
And I just basically was like, okay, here's my pitch. Like, here's what it sounds like to me. Here is my like visual
representation
of your record. And they were like, great, let's do it. And it was so good. It was just me and the three of them in a car, and like we drove around the Pacific Northwest for like 5 days, and it was gorgeous. And we shot a music video and like all the visualizers and all of the press imagery and all the like album artwork, and it was gorgeous and like one of the best experiences of my life. And I get to do so much other stuff with them. We started a festival last year which was so chaotic, and I don't think any of us ever want to do it again, but also like what an incredible thing to have made, and like it was an amazing thing to be a part of. And yeah, so I don't know, the editorial stuff, I've always done it, but I know that there are things that I want to do. Like I want a Vogue cover, I want to be shooting major fashion campaigns, so I knew that the way to get into that, I think, was basically either shooting more fashion or shooting more celebrity. And so I was already sending my work out to like publications who I really loved and whose work I thought was amazing, and just being like, I would love to work with you. Can we do this? And I still cold email people all the time, or have my list of people that I want to work with and like that I update regularly with PDFs and work. And I'm quite like militant about it, and I'm sure people get really annoyed, but like it doesn't matter, because if you want me to stop, you got to hire me, and then that's it.
You never stop.
That's the deal. Yeah.
I mean, how many years have you been doing this?
This will be my 11th year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never stop. You never stop cold emailing. You never stop with the PDF.
No, I'm relentless.
I love the fact that you still do it.
Yeah. I do it sort of like every 3 months. I kind of do it.
The joys of trying to find someone's email address when they don't want you to find it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My last question for you is, okay, what are you calling in? Like, what is like the next thing you want to put a little tick next to?
Thank you for explaining that, because I'm old.
I don't think you are.
I turned 30 and now I don't know what anything means anymore.
I'm right behind you.
Amazing. Come join. A Vogue cover. Someone hire me at Vogue. Cool. Thank you. Bye.
So
also it has to be British or US Vogue.
Okay, I knew those two.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not picking. Like, I'll totally shoot for the other Vogues, but like
that is the one
I want. Yeah, that's what I want.
Cover.
I mean, it's not going to happen in the next year, but like I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's not going to happen next year doesn't mean it's never going to happen, though.
No.
People look at such things short. Not you. I know that you have like long-term vision.
I just didn't know if the calling in had to be in the near future. But
No. Well, I'm just saying. Someone was on this podcast last episode. They called in getting Pitbull, and then they may have shot Pitbull. Just saying.
you should show.
Yeah. And the photos were great. And she dressed up like him with a pit.
I know, I saw. I'm so excited for her now how much that meant to her. Anyway.
I will make you a promise, okay?
Okay.
When you shoot for Vogue,
Okay.
I will buy it.
Has to be the cover though.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'll
Okay,
buy
cool,
it.
cool.
And I will frame it and I'll put it up in my house.
Oh, that's so nice.
And the
Oh,
thing is, if you ever do come to my house, I have several people's cover artwork
oh, that's so
framed
cute.
and put somewhere in my house.
Oh,
So I will do that.
that's so lovely.
Such a hard ask because it will obviously not be an amazing photo. I'm joking. It will be sick, and I can't wait for that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for
babe.
so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks so much for having me on. This was so lovely.
I'm sure that we will make some semblance of the episode of our yapping.
I'm so sorry. I feel like I yapped.
No, you're
hard.
fine. Thank you so much for coming. You are amazing. I'm going to leave show notes of everyone that you've talked about today.
Cool. Please.
And I'm also going to link to all of your work. I will link to that other podcast so you can just get a little bit more of a background about the amazing Jen. And then that's it. And I'll say I'll catch you in the next one, whenever that is, because at the moment he's coming out monthly. And for everyone asking me for more, I'm doing my best, right?
We want more. We want more.
Thanks for that. That's not much pressure at all. So yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
and don't
you.
don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. I'm really bad at this because that means I can get more people on and maybe get sponsored.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen.
I'm making
I've wanted to do that for so long.
We've made Jen's dream come true today.
This is what I actually want. This is what I wanted to call in. Oh my God. Anyway.
I'm actually going to leave now. We are actually going to go.